Hey kids! This is Princess Readaloud and
The Taste
from Kids Reading Corner 207. Today we're going to read Sleepy Beauty, story by Bedford. This story is in the book Don't Kiss the Frog, Princess Stories with Attitude, chosen by Fiona Waters. Sleepy Beauty loved to sleep. She snoozed in the bathtub and swallowed a mouthful of bubbles. She dozed during the really exciting episode of Royal Romances. She napped while the king was giving out prizes on sports day. Sleepy Beauty was the most slumbery, drowsy, daydreamy Sleepy Beauty anyone has ever known. And when she blushed her pink blush and lowered her blue eyes, everyone said, "Ah," and told her to go have 40 winks. But the king was tired of seeing her daughter snoozing all the time. "What is the matter with my daughter?" he demanded. "Send for the royal doctors. Make her sleep in a bed of needles and walk without shoes," said the first royal doctor. "Make her drink cold water and keep her bedroom windows open," said the second royal doctor. "Let her go to sleep and then shout 'boo' very loudly every time she does," said the third royal doctor. "Give me patience," the king said impatiently. He had heard all these medical options before. They never did any good. They just gave Sleepy Beauty a rash. "I don't know why I bother," muttered the king. Then one day a very old royal doctor hobbled up to the throne and bowed. He bowed and stayed bowed. It was several minutes before anyone noticed that he was stuck. "Oh, please lift him up," the king said and sighed wearily. "What on earth are you doing out of bed?" he asked when the royal doctor was standing upright again. "I think I know why Sleepy Beauty is so catnappy and dozy," the royal doctor said. I remembered last night, the year the princess was born, when I was the king's favorite. "This isn't going to take forever, is it?" the king asked with a frown. "A wicked witch was here in the royal palace," the old doctor went on without answering. He was almost deaf, you see, so he could ignore what the king said without appearing rude and losing his head, which can happen with angry kings. "Actually, she wasn't that wicked," said the royal doctor, added with a shrug. "She was a nursemaid with a short temper. She definitely wanted to be a witch, but she kept failing her spelling test and they threw her out of witch school." "What did she do?" the king yelled at the royal doctor. "One day she lost her temper and cast the spell," the royal doctor continued. "I heard her say to the princess, 'You are so dozy that you should sleep for 100 years. Then she should have said the part about Eye of Newt. Then she should have said the part about the eye of the newt and the toe of the frog. But she forgot and ran away. But she's never
been seen since. The king turned white. He breathed heavily and closed his eyes. He took off his crown and polished it on his robe, which is what he always did when he was upset. So the spell didn't work, said the royal doctor explained. The eye of the new one, the toe of the frog. So no spell, just sort of half spell. Sleeping Beauty instead of Sleeping Beauty, if Sleeping Beauty instead of Sleeping Beauty, if you get the idea.
By the time the king had finished polishing his crown, the royal doctor had gone back to bed. The royal poet stepped forward. "My king," he said in the pompous voice poets always use, "I know the old story. I know the way the tale ends." "Do you?" growled the king in a voice that hinted he would like to see the royal poet's tale end and not happily ever after. "You better tell us, and then as that's what you're paid for." "The tale ends," said the poet, "when a prince hacks his way through the garden, kisses the princess, and wakes her up from her sleepiness. It's only half a spell, so you won't even need a prince." "A poet would do just as well." The king turned red this time, like a tomato. "No one's going to hack through my garden," he yelled from the throne. "No one's going to kiss this princess. Oh no, not even a royal poet. So you better go away and think of a better ending than that."
So things went on as before. Sleeping Beauty slumbered and nodded off, but she smiled so sweetly when she was asleep, and she smiled so sweetly when she was awake, that everybody fell in love with her. But the news got out. The royal poet was not good at keeping his mouth shut. He told everyone the secret to the ending of Sleeping Beauty's sleepiness, and as the rumors spread, young princes began to gather around the palace's borders.
"One was found in the rose garden, hacking down the roses. Boil him in beer," yelled the king, and the guards quickly took him to the border and threw him back. "One of them was found in the orchard, sawing the branches off the apple tree. Drop him in the dungeon," the king bellowed, and the guards wrapped him up in brown paper, covered him in stamps, and sent him back to his parents. "One of them was caught in the vegetable garden, digging up all the carrots and turnips. Float him in the moat," the king shouted.
And the guards pushed him into a wheelbarrow and trundled him down to the docks and onto the first ship sailing back to his own country. Sleeping Beauty thought that all of this was very funny. "These men," she said and giggled, raising her eyebrows and blushing, "the things they will do for exercise." "It isn't exercise they want," the king growled. The royal gardens were a mess. All the gardeners had run away. They were sick of being attacked by princes. "We need a new gardener," the king said. So they advertised in the village, and soon a young man came by with his gardening tools.
Sleepy Beauty had never seen anyone so handsome. He was tanned by the sun. He wore a single red He wore a single gold earring. His old boots were red leather and polished to a fine shine. He had very blue eyes, which she couldn't stop looking into. His name was Tom. Tom soon planted new roses and repaired the damage to the apple trees. He planted fresh vegetables and took the carrots and turnips to the kitchen.
He sang while he worked, and Sleepy Beauty got in the way, falling asleep, tripping over pitchforks and spades, tearing her dress, and filling her hair with straw. She hadn't enjoyed herself so much in her entire life. It took them a week to put the gardens straight. "Do you want some lemonade?" she asked when they were finished. "Thank you," Tom said. So they sat together drinking lemonade and playing Kings and Queens, a very old card game. When Sleeping Beauty won the 10th game, she was so excited she flung her arms around the young man's neck and kissed him.
And just like that, the sleepy feeling left her. It simply disappeared. It flew away above the apple trees and never came back. "That's amazing," Sleepy Beauty said. "What do you mean?" said Tom, feeling slightly puzzled. He was used to dealing with flowers and vegetables, you see, not girls. But he was willing to learn. By the time the king arrived home from his how to get rid of doctor's lesson, Sleepy Beauty and Tom had fallen in love, and the king was so pleased that Sleepy Beauty had lost all of her sleepiness that he said they could get married, and as long as Tom agreed to look after the royal gardens. So they did, and everybody lived happily ever after. The end. What do you think, kids? Well, what do you think the taste?
I loved it because it was based off of the Sleeping Beauty, and I loved the part where at the end she kissed him while playing Kings and Queens and drinking lemonade. What do you think of it, Princess Readalong?
One of the things I liked of it was where they had fallen in love, and I love that they made the Sleepy Beauty character based off of Sleeping Beauty. Well, my favorite part was where the doctors were trying to tell the king what they thought, but they got banished. Well, the end. Thanks for listening, and read lots.